Am I still angry? Yes. Are there huge problems at Tottenham? Of course there are. But I've thought about it overnight and I've never been more sure. We're at the tipping point and we need to give Ange Postecoglu the time to turn this diabolical lack of consistency around. He needs more windows so that he can get more physicality into the spine of this team. And he needs the patience to make the changes that other managers have received so that their squad knows how to eke out results even when they're not playing well. And most of all, he needs the chance to get his 9 injured players back. I'll be discussing why I think we have to stick with Ange on today's episode of the Spurs On podcast. Guys, thanks for watching and listening. Please do give this video a like on YouTube. Please do subscribe to YouTube and come across to the podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and give me a subscribe or follow there. But let's get into it. My thoughts after last night's 1-0 loss against Bournemouth. I was very agitated after the game and during the game, to be honest. But I'm going to start with the away fans. And this is not an easy thing for me to say. But last night, the away fans were a disgrace. Not all of them, of course, but the ones who posted their videos, the ones who were screaming at Ange physical and personal insults. Calling Ange fat and Postecoglu it's beyond the line as far as I'm concerned. Chanting that at a game where you're trying to support your players, it's a disgrace. Now listen, the away fans, they pay their money and they travel the country. So absolutely, to boo the players, if that's the way that you want to get it across, that is your prerogative. Of course it is. But to get personal on Ange Postecoglu, no, that's not right. It's just not right. And to be honest, it doesn't feel like Spurs to me. It doesn't feel right. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about that. Maybe if you are an away fan, please get in the comments and let me know what it was like there. But I get it. Like, it was a diabolical performance. It was horrible. It was nothing, was it? It was going to a team like Bournemouth, who got to give some, a caveat here. They have beaten Arsenal and Man City at home this season. But going there and not really, just not touching the sides, not giving them any problems. They had a young couple of centre-halves who just relaxed into the game like Rolls Royces, and ironically 2 centre-halves who are both on our list, players that we were interested in signing and chose not to. But we just gave them an easy game and didn't touch the sides. And once again, from when we're in a position of adversity, just absolutely no way of turning it around. However, to get back to my original point, to then use that as an opportunity to slag off the manager's what he looks like, or to accuse him of having no clue. I mean, he clearly does have a clue. He's clearly suffering at the moment. He's trying to learn on the job about the Premier League, sure. But also, when you've got 9 of your players out who would be involved in that match, and especially some of your biggest players down the spine of the side, and other players who you expect to kind of make up for it, like Son Heung-min, for instance, just really not in form, there's really not a lot he can do about that. And it's really, I think, basic and far too obviously reactionary to just blame the manager. Now, of course, I'll get into then those of you who are also using this as an opportunity again to talk about ENIC and Levy and blaming Levy for their past mistakes. I understand that too, and I'll get into that later in the episode. But I just want to stick here and say once again, I thought some of the chants, some of the shouting that I heard in those videos towards Ange Postecoglu when he's standing right there next to you, I honestly was so shocked. I thought it was absolutely disgusting. And when Postecoglu was pointing at me as if you're calling me fat, you're saying I've got no clue. At that point, I'm wondering maybe Ange is going to walk out. Maybe he's had enough of this. Maybe he doesn't need it. He has a great record wherever he's gone. Granted, I will listen to all of you subjectively who say not at the top elite level. Sure, and that's why I say he's still learning on the job and will continue to, and is making tweaks here and there. And when he's had his players fit, and the data backs this up, Spurs have been pretty decent this season, and those tweaks have been working. But still, like I said, absolutely your prerogative, whether you're a home fan or an away fan. You can boo and, you can shout things. Of course you can. But to get personal and to call someone's weight into question, come on, guys, this is 2024. It's just so base. And maybe a lot of those away fans have been drinking, most of the day and whatever. Maybe they were drunk and that happens. But talk about a way to try and push people out of your club and also have other people look at your club and be like, I wouldn't want any part of that. Think about it. Don't just think about what's happening in the moment. Think about the potential repercussions as well. Okay, I'm going to go on and talk about physicality. I mentioned it in the opening there. We will simply never improve our form, but especially our away form, until we have the physicality to match opposition teams who want to make games a scrap. Think about the Palace game. Think about the Ipswich game. Think about the Bournemouth game. Bournemouth haven't been talked about this season or under Iraola in general as being a team who want to kind of get in your faces or a team who want to knock the ball long. But last night they played a pretty standard 4-4-2, and when there was any danger in their final third, they just whacked it out of the park. They just whacked it up the pitch, and they knew that if they just left yesterday's game to 50-50s and first and second balls, that Tottenham would lose it, because Spurs are not strong enough down the spine of the side or out wide, but especially down the spine of the side, to match those kind of 50-50s and that kind of style of play. And they also knew, realistically, if they keep a clean sheet, they'll win, because Tottenham will concede either from a transition, where Bournemouth looked incredibly dangerous throughout the game, or from a set piece. And yesterday's defending for that set piece was honestly beyond the pale. That was just horrific. And I'll go into this in a little bit more about set pieces, actually. But listen, in terms of the physicality, we need bigger, more physical players in the heart of the team. We've been talking for a long time about needing a big, strong six, and we've not dealt with that. This is what the recruitment team need to be concentrating on now. And if you think about that player who we've looked at from Betis, who we've got the first dibs on, Johnny Cardoso, not the biggest player. We need players down the spine of the team who are going to be a bit bigger. And listen, the comparison I'm going to give is Arsene Wenger back at his time at Woolwich Arsenal, right? He tried to turn Arsenal into like prime Barcelona tiki-taka team. He'd won the double, and he'd won trophies with the kind of famed back four, Lee Dixon, Tony Adams, Steve Bold, Nigel Winterburn, Martin Keown, David Seaman, and then in midfield, Emmanuel Petit and Patrick Vieira. Big lumps. They could play football, but they were big lumps, and they gave physicality down the spine of the team. They had like absolutely eons of leadership, endless amounts of leadership, knew how to get players up for it, knew how to get players out of trouble in adversity. And he went from winning the double with players like that to looking at Barcelona and being like, well, I want to prove that I can do it that way and make it beautiful. So he brings his next the next evolution of his Woolwich Arsenal team, players like Jack Wilshere, Alexander Hleb, Andre Arshavin, Cesc Fabregas, small guys, great footballers, but small guys, nothing. Like they won maybe a few FA Cups or whatever. I think they always had decent runs into the final and played nobody in the final, right? But they didn't win another league, and you need a healthy mix of both. And Spurs do not have any of those physical leaders in the team at all. And it's amazing now, isn't it, that some people are starting to talk about maybe we shouldn't have got rid of Højbjerg, and he was absolutely the whipping boy. He was the whipping boy because he couldn't play the Ange way. Well, what we need is players who can play the Ange way but can also get involved in a scrap and really get into the 50-50s and the first and second balls. And I'll tell you this, even Pep Guardiola realised this when he came to the Premier League. His first season, he realised it was too much of a soft touch. He didn't have the fullbacks he wanted, and he didn't have the physical players he wanted. You look at those Man City teams who have done the best. They have got lumps down the spine of the team. Think about Diaz. Think about Rodri. Think about Haaland. Lumps. Always when he has centre-backs, other than maybe John Stones, Gvardiol, big lump. Not afraid to get involved. Not afraid to get his sleeves rolled up and get his hands dirty. And Tottenham, I'm afraid, as well as wanting to play the beautiful way, and that's what Ange is trying to bring in, to dare is to do, and we love him for that, of course. That's what Tottenham want after having Conte and after having Jose. Well, we've had that defensive side of just kind of defensive, kind of slow, physical players. And now we've got the opposite, where we're all kind of trying to play just pretty football and be very beautiful and attacking. We need a healthy mix of both if we're going to succeed. And you look back to the peak Pochettino team, that's exactly what we had. Alderweireld, lump. Moussa Dembele, lump. Victor Wanyama, lump, straight down the middle. And then, alongside them, Vertonghen, Rolls-Royce. Christian Eriksen, Rolls-Royce. Eric Lamela gets his foot stuck in. On the other side, Dele Alli. More of a kind of silky, creative player. Harry Kane, bit of a lump, not afraid to shoulder barge with anyone, get involved. You need a healthy mix, and that is what the recruitment team and Johan Lange and Scott Munn and Ange Postecoglu, they need to be getting together and saying, if we don't do this January, it will be too late. It will be too late. And I'm afraid to say, as much as I don't want it to happen, Ange Postecoglu's job is now on the line, and he needs to be strong here and say, if you back me for the players that we need right down the middle of this team, then I can make this a success. But if you don't, I will be another manager through the door, and it will be because I didn't have the players at my disposal. On the flip side of that, what you do have to wonder, don't you? The training regime. It's been mentioned before. So many injuries. Some of the injuries are unlucky, but some of them are muscle injuries down to the training regime. And Ange wants it to be relentless, doesn't he, all the time? And that's fine on the pitch. And sure, I guess you do have to train in that way to make sure they're ready for that. But if it's so relentless that you can't get the players on the pitch who are able to help you win these kind of games or not lose these kind of games, then it's totally self-defeating, isn't it? It's all well and good being romantic, say, well, this is the only way I think we have a chance of winning the big titles in the long run. But if you're not there to win the the big titles, if the players aren't on the pitch to help you win the games, to help you get to challenging for the big titles, it's completely self-defeating. So maybe the stubbornness has to change a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about set pieces and how that links to the physicality, both defensive and attacking. Everyone is laughing at Arsenal this week because they won against Man United just by scoring 2 more goals from corners. But I'll tell you who aren't laughing about it. I'll tell you who aren't taking the piss out of Arsenal for it. Arsenal fans. They're loving it. Because they know, just as Mikel Arteta knows, that you need to win games in the Premier League easy goals. You need to get easy goals. You need to get goals from set pieces. You need to make it difficult for people. And you need to be strong and physical and hard, both in your own box when defending set pieces and in the opposition box when attacking them. And Spurs offer no threat from attacking set pieces at all. At all. And under Conte, we had a set piece coach, and just look at the numbers under that set piece coach, and we got rid of him, and we shouldn't have done. And that's Postecoglu being too stubborn. And I want Postecoglu to stay, but he has to learn. I've said he's learning on the job, and he has to learn quickly. Don't be stubborn. Utilize everything at your in your armory. Utilize everything that a Premier League club has the opportunity to have in terms of data, in terms of sports science, in terms of specific set-piece coaches. Listen, I hate it when I watch Arsenal. I see that set-piece coach of theirs come front and centre, standing in front of Mikel Arteta when they get a corner. But do you not think it makes the fans go like, the Arsenal fans go like, oh, something's going to happen here, and therefore the players also think, oh, I think we can do this. It adds a layer of confidence. So I'm afraid to say, as much as I hate it, it's smart, and they score so many from them because it also intimidates the opposition. And this romantic idea that Ange has of, it just being kind of old school romantic and the way you play your football can beat everything. No, it can't. In the Premier League, at the ruthless, top, elite level, where everyone is being paid more money than basically any club in the world, marginal gains is how you get ahead. And Spurs at the moment are not bothered about marginal gains, or at least it doesn't look like they are. And right now, more than ever, Tottenham need cheap goals. Ange Postecoglu needs cheap goals. He needs set-piece goals. And he's not getting any, and we're conceding them too. And it will be the death of his managership at Spurs if he doesn't do something about it. I want to speak to you guys. Let me know in the comments why you think this happens. Why does he insist, Ange Postecoglu, on taking off James Maddison, one of our 2 creative players pretty much, 10 minutes before the end of every game when we're chasing the game? It makes no sense to me at all. It really doesn't. And I'm sure it makes no sense to James Maddison either. When you need a goal, when you need someone to pop up on the edge of the box to do something different, to hit a shot that might go in or get deflected or something, or put in a good ball, or put in a good cross. He had the closest chance to us, the one where he had his back to goal, bent it towards the far corner, just wide. Don't take him off at the end. I get it, you'll want to bring more legs on, Lucas Bogle or whatever. I don't know. Take a defender off, honestly, at that point. Take Udogie off, just whatever. But don't take Maddison off, your only chance. He does it over and over again. Let me know in the comments why you think he does that. I don't get it. Huge question, have to ask now. Are the players still playing for Ange? Do you think they're playing for Ange? Let me know what you think in the comments. Let's talk about it. Or are they frustrated as well with everyone getting injured? Do they think now, if we stop playing for Ange, maybe we can get someone else in and training will be a bit easier? Now, I'm not saying that is the case. I'm asking you. Do you think that's the case? Have they stopped playing for him? And if they have, and if they do want it to be a bit easier day to day in training, then that says a lot about that group, doesn't it? I'm hopeful that that's not the case. I'm hopeful that the injuries are what are absolutely killing us now, and the fact that we need more windows and we need players who are absolutely oven ready, to coin a political phrase, oven ready to come straight into this first team and make a difference. Players who are big and strong. And we need some arseholes in that team, don't we? We need more Romeros. We need more Dragushins. And we need Dragushin to be a bit louder. He's great in the air and he attacks things. And he put in some great defending yesterday. But we need him to be loud and just be like, actually, I'm gonna become one of the leaders of this squad and this team. We really do. Because even our leaders, people like Ben Davies, Son Heung-min, James Maddison, they're not loud. They're not big personalities. And that's what we need now. But let me know in the comments, do you think the players are still playing for Ange? Has it gone? I want to try and come across some kind of positives. Fraser Forster, once again, huge saves. He surprised me. One difficult pass he made into Kulusevski where Bournemouth should have scored, but he didn't have many options and the ball that was given back to him was horrible. In fact, he was given a few very difficult pass backs to deal with yesterday. And more importantly, though, he dealt with them fine, but more importantly, made some absolutely huge saves. And like I said, that's why you keep James Maddison on the pitch. If your goalkeeper's keeping you in the game, you can nick one at the end and you get away from there with a point somehow. That is what good teams do. And Tottenham at this stage are not a good team, but they need to learn how to be a good team. And all these little points that I'm making, I think, could help Tottenham to become a good team. I think they've got the potential in those players, and it needs a few additions. Like I said, over and over, physical, players in the spine, additions. But there's talent there. But we need to make these changes. We need the marginal gains. Obviously, a massive negative that Ben Davies has done is hamstring. He is the one giving us balance at the back, and now we have no left-footers coming at the back. Obviously, Ange, I think he's doing his press conference at 11:30 today. I'm filming this at 10 a.m, and he will tell us how long it is before Van der Ven and Romero might be back. But Ben Davies doing his hamstring is a huge loss for Spurs at this point. And Ange spoke earlier this week about January, a lot of it being decided about where we're at. Well, if Ange makes it to January, another defender is going to have to come in. Is Alfie Dorrington going to get a go? I don't think so. I think Archie Gray is probably going to start at centre-back against Chelsea, assuming that Van der Ven and Romero aren't fit. What a hiding to nothing for Archie Gray, really. Never played centre-back in his life before he came to Spurs, and now having to play there. My overall feeling, as I mentioned in the title of this is my overall feeling. We have got to the point where we have to do what Edu, the sporting director at Woolwich Arsenal, did. The entire Arsenal fan base wanted Arteta out. They were booing him. They were shouting abuse at him. But Edu was brave and he was patient and he allowed Arteta to learn on the job. He allowed him to make the changes he thought he needed to make. He allowed him to have the windows to get the players in that he thought they needed to bring in. And look how it turned out. We need to do the same with Ange Postecoglu. But this could be an incredibly ugly December. It really could. I think we've got, 7 more games? Not confident about any of them. Of course, it would be the most Spurs this season thing of all to now turn over Chelsea easily at home, but we have such a horrible record against Chelsea. Cole Palmer's on fire. They seem to be totally stable as a club and on the pitch. And with the injuries Spurs have, I just can't see us getting a result against Chelsea. And it's going to be hard, I think, for Tottenham to stick with Ange. It's going to be hard for Levy not to be tempted to pull the trigger finger, especially because now the fans are starting to chant Levy out and ENIC out again. And we know that Levy likes to shut off those fans by changing the manager each time. And it's understandable that the Levy and ENIC brigade are piping up again. Of course, it's understandable. But one thing I have to say, Levy and ENIC are spending a lot of money at the moment. Other than Chelsea, I think Spurs are basically the highest spenders last summer and certainly in the top 3 over the past few years. So they are spending money, they are investing, and they are investing in the painful rebuild that we should have started 6 years ago but couldn't because of the stadium build. But of course, the mistakes that they've made in the past in terms of not selling players at the right time, that's having to be rectified right now. All the deadwood that was had to get rid of in the summer, that has had to be done. And of course, the fans have their right to be angry at mistakes from the past from Levy and ENIC. Absolutely, they have their right. But I don't think it's fair to say that ENIC and Levy are still not investing. They are. You can't just spend 500 million in a window anymore without cheating the system like Chelsea have. You just can't. I know everyone talks about how Spurs are in a good place with PSR, and I think comparatively to other clubs they are, meaning we can spend in every window. But they're having to ship out all of this deadwood and bring in new players. And at the same time, Ange is saying you can't do it all at once. You can't bring too many players in at once. And that has been proven over time. And many clubs in the Premier League, whenever, including Spurs, when they bought the 7 players from Gareth Bale, you can't just integrate all those players at once. So we have to be patient. We have to be. And of course, there is an argument to say, and I agree with this, we have to invest in some oven-ready first-team players that can go straight into that side. And that is what we need to be doing now. But it is a balance, and it's difficult to admit, but it is a balance of investment in terms of the painful rebuild from top to bottom, changing the transfer strategy, concentrating on bringing younger players in for the future of the club. But we also need to now top that off with players for the first team who are ready now. But my overall feeling, just again to say, We have to stick with Ange. We have to be brave and patient now. We have to do, and I hate referencing them down the road, but we have to do what they did with Arteta, what Edu did with Arteta. Let me know if you agree in the comments. And if you disagree, that's fine. But that's my argument. Because otherwise, the revolving wheel of managers, it will all just start again. And this time, we need to stick with him, be patient, let him get his players back. I'm just going to go through some of his quotes after the game last night. He said, very disappointing, Ange Postecoglu this is. We started the game well, started the game the way we wanted to and started controlling it. I agree with that maybe for the first 10 minutes. Then he said, but we gave away a poor goal, a really poor goal again. Couldn't agree more. That allows the opposition to, and it's a difficult place to come anyway, sit back and play the football they want. To counter-attack, and we have to open up. It's disappointing and not good enough. It is not something that's a one-off. We've done that now 3 or 4 times and paid a price for it. He was asked about the incident with the fans after the match. He said, I didn't like what was being said by the fans because I'm a human being, but you've got to cop it. I've been around long enough to know that when things don't go well, you've got to understand the frustration and the disappointment. And they're rightly disappointed because we let a game of football get away from us. But that's okay. I'm okay with that. He said, all I can say is I'm really disappointed with tonight and I'm determined to get it right and I'll keep fighting until we do. So Ange sounding bullish. I'm hopeful that he got a good night's sleep and he's not tempted to jack it all in. Because as I've said time and time again in this video, we've got to stick with Ange. We've got to give him the tools. We've got to allow him the time. We're still in the cup competitions. Listen, it just shows people, so many fans say, I don't care about the league this season. I just want us to win a cup. Well, we're in all the cups. It doesn't mean we're going to win them, but we're in all the cups. And that's all you can be at this point. But clearly everyone does care about the league. Absolutely everyone cares about the league. So it's a difficult balance. Just want to bring you a stat. Spurs in the Premier League since that Chelsea home game last season it was the 11th game, we'd played 10, won 8, drawn 2, the halcyon honeymoon period of Ange. Since then, 42 matches played, 18 wins, 6 draws, 18 defeats, 80 goals scored, 67 goals conceded. It's up and down. We're at the tipping point. We are. Be brave, Spurs fans. Be brave, the board. Be brave. Stick with the man. Let him have the time. Because if we don't, I do not know where we go next. I do not know who comes in. But I wouldn't bet that anyone else would do any better at this stage. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. I hope you found a way to at least have some of that resonate with you. Please do get involved in the comments. Let's have a big chat about all this. It's a horrible time to be a Spurs fan and a very dangerous December, as I mentioned. But please, thank you so much, and thank you so much for your support. Give this video a like. Please do subscribe to my channel for daily Tottenham content. And also, please do become a member. Only £1 a month. You can be a Patreon or a YouTube member. All the details in the description box below. And it really helps me make this content for you. Try and enjoy your Friday. Come on, you Spurs.